So don't be afraid to invest in some sort of coaching or coach or mastermind, something like that. And also, and probably the third and final thing is to choose something that you're passionate about and be willing to play the long game.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're going to do a great job. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Modern Man Podcast, where we are here to connect men in pursuit of their potential. Everyone, I'm encouraging you to embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails with us as you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button to get a new episode each and every single week, and share this with someone that you know can get value from this podcast as well. Really, it's the best compliment you can give us. And don't forget, to the men that are watching or listening, check out the Noble Knights group, where you can find the support, accountability, and the mentorship you need to achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve themselves and elevate their capacity for life. And I'm excited because we're going to get some wind in our sails today from my guest. He is a podcaster, a digital marketing entrepreneur, host of the Beyond Ordinary podcast. It's a pleasure to have Myles Youngblood on the episode today. Myles, good to have you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me today, Ted. I can't wait to dive in deep into the episode for sure.
No, absolutely, man. And before we dive in deep, I want to make sure I give you an opportunity to talk really directly to the audience. Take the podcast. I know you know how to do this as a host yourself. So talk to the folks at home, let them know who you are, what you do, what brings you here today, and we can jump into the episode, man.
Man, no problem. So thank you for having me. Everybody, my name is Myles Youngblood. Yes, that is my last name. Everybody, no one believes me when I first meet them. They all think I'm lying, but I promise you it's my last name. So I'm a digital marketer. I help podcasters and YouTubers with their short form content. It's a completely done for you service I've been doing for about a year. I started that mainly because one, because I like money. And two, because I just see that in this digital age, it is so important to be on everywhere, to be on every platform, to utilize the powerful algorithms for these platforms. And YouTube has been around for a long time. And a lot of my clients, they were in the long form game and they didn't necessarily know how to pivot to the short form game. So I've been helping them out for that, doing that. And then I just want to start a podcast as well. I just seen the trend of podcasts, and especially now that the election is over and whatnot, and that the role that podcasts played in the election, and I just see the trend, and I'm just really just trying to ride the wave. I just talk about I talk about entrepreneurship, but I also like to just talk about different people in different walks of life and how they got to where they are, whether they're a musician, whether they're a podcaster themselves. I just interviewed a comedian who now is going full-time comedian, content creator, just everything over there. So if you want to give it a look, go for it.
Nice. I'll have those links in the show notes and obviously give you the opportunity to share more of what you would like to share with the audience at the end. But
absolutely,
I love that. And I've already written down in the notes for anyone listening, because I love to extract and pull all the gems along the way. But listening to the trends, paying close attention. We use a term here on the Modern Man podcast called ball watching. A lot of guys get caught ball watching while the world's happening around them. Their feet are stagnant and they're looking at everything and they're not putting themselves in a position to really take advantage of where the world is going. So just mentioning the trend of podcasts and altering with YouTube, going from the long form to the short form game, and people not really being able to adjust with that. Even as a matter of fact, when we talk about the research behind this, a study actually published in the Journal of Marketing Theory and Practice highlights that storytelling in marketing significantly enhances consumer engagement and brand loyalty. So I'm interested, for your experience, what have you found that your clients get as a reward for tapping into the art of storytelling, not just in long form, but in short form, in terms of how you help your clients?
Yeah, so I would say the benefit from short form is that a lot of people's attention spans have just shrunk, right? And you still want to be able to capture people for a certain period of time. Like, not everybody's going to translate into your long form content, but they may still be fans of yours. They might still, share your content. And there will be a certain percentage of people that will stick around, watch the long form content, and stuff like that. Or if you have a product that you're trying to sell or a Discord community that you're trying to promote, they will also, naturally funnel to those. So I think just being shareable, like, oh, that's another thing, is that short form content is significantly more shareable than long form content. I'm sure you could attest that it's significantly easier to scroll on Instagram. You see a reel, you just share it to somebody because you thought it was funny, as opposed to, oh, you're on your desktop and this episode or whatever, and then you send it to somebody, like, you know what I mean. So it's just a lot more shareable. And like, what we do is we also post on all platforms as well. And the reason why I want my clients to be on all platforms, is because you never want to specialize in just one platform. And then if that platform decides to deplatform you, then your whole business, your whole livelihood is gone. So that's why it's good to be everywhere. Those are just some of
Yeah.
the high level benefits for sure.
Absolutely, man. I can't tell you when a buddy sends me like an hour-long podcast, it's like, yo, check this out. It's like, yo, I'll put it on the list. And he's like, yo, where's the list? I'm like, I just told you that to be nice, bro. There is no list. It's just when you send me something an hour long, I'm not gonna be able to watch it right away. But you send me something that's 60 seconds, I could probably watch that right then and there and
Yeah,
respond
exactly.
in the actual moment. Um, what about your journey, brother? What was it like in terms of the inspiration that got you started in this digital marketing? And then from the moment you made that choice to the activities that followed, how long did it take until you were like, okay, I'm a digital marketer. I'm interested to know what that arc was like.
Man, well, it's kind of a long, it's a long story. So strap in. So basically, I graduated from college in 2020, and then, that was I was the unfortunate COVID class, so I didn't have any graduation or anything. I was just home, right? And I also didn't graduate with a job straight out. I eventually did get one, but I always knew I was in the school of business. I got a degree in finance, and I always knew I wanted to be a entrepreneur. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, so I just started just researching different business models. Amazon FBA, drop shipping. What else did I try? I tried day trading. All these things I actually did end up trying, but like, they just never stuck. And then I just remember coming across, social media marketing agencies, and finding out that those were a business model that was digital, allowed me to, you know, work from home. I currently live on the East Coast, so I'm originally from the West Coast. So I could, take my business with me, still make money, time freedom, location freedom, all the nine yards. So I was like, all right, cool. So I just started, looking into different things, and I started out doing Facebook ads for real estate agents, and I did that for probably about, like, I don't know, maybe like 6 months or so. And it
Okay.
was it was definitely really rough, because most real estate agents don't make that much money, and then the ones that do pretty much didn't need my help. So I was kind of in a rock and a hard place. And so it was, I think, early 2023. I remember the exact day. I had a sales call with somebody. He swore up and down he was interested, and then, like, the day, like, my man's was getting married, and we were going out to his bachelor party, like, that morning. Like, we were leaving to go that, and the call was like an hour before we were gonna leave, and he didn't show up, and I was like, "All right, I'm done. I gotta find something else to do." And so there was this trend going on of just, of what's it called, short form content agencies. It was really big, and I was just like, just tapping in, doing research on different reasons why people said it wasn't going to work, why it was going to work. I actually had a colleague, he started one. He started working with some dude doing food and whatnot, and so I was like, you know what. And at the time, like, I was really into, from like 2020 to like 2021, 2022, I was really into, like, crypto and investing. And that's a whole nother story of how much just I lost so much money doing that. But I found a whole
Same.
lot of finance content creators, through doing that. So I was like, yeah, what if I did these finance content creators short form content and did it that way? Not only, and I'd also be able to have them as a client and have them be able to, like, text the expert that I've been watching on YouTube, like, hey, what do you think about this, that, and the other? And I was able to do that. And I was able to sign several clients. Some of them are still with me to this day, and then we've been working with each other for over a year. So that's pretty much how it's gone. Still doing it, still chugging along, still, trying to refine my processes, and just scale. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
that's fantastic. Because what I hear is what a lot of guys are afraid to do is fail. Try things, right? You mentioned crypto space. You and I both lost money there.
Oh, for sure.
Mentioned doing Facebook ads, running marketing. I did drop shipping. And for anybody that sees a successful business owner, it's easy to think it's like, oh man, they just got it figured out. But when you see that successful business owner, you don't see the failures behind them that got them there. You don't see the 6 or 7 businesses that they took a swing at that didn't work out to then get to that one that really panned out, or even that one business might have panned out. I mean, if you're a monster like Jeff Bezos, your first business is successful, but like look at Jeff Bezos. It took him 10 years before the dude was profitable. So
Hmm.
nothing that's worth happening comes overnight. And you went through the motions. And what I love what you touched on was how the direction in which we go usually doesn't always end up in the destination we hope. And what I mean by that is you mentioned the
Absolutely.
crypto space and that finance space that had you meet other creators that helped you tap into now the short form content digital marketing space. I'm interested to know in terms of your experience when it comes to networking and meeting other people in the same arena. How is that tapped into not just your business growth, your potential client acquisition, but how is that tapped into the personal growth of Miles as an entrepreneur and as a man?
Got you, got you. Networking has been something that I've been really taking a lot more seriously as of recently. Going to different podcast conference. I went to Podcast Movement. I was out here in DC. I'm planning on going to Podcast Evolution in Chicago. I went to Vid Summit in yeah, I went to Vid Summit in Dallas. And just being able to just network with different people, especially people that are like where I want to be or just are ahead of me, has just been phenomenal. And it's just also a way for me to just meet clients. Actually, one of my clients I just signed recently, that's where I met her at. I met her at Vid Summit, and some of my current clients were there. They connected me. They said, "Hey, Miles does great work. You should check him out." Da da da. And so the sale was really easy. So just being able to network has just been just with people that are where I want to be has just been phenomenal. And I would just say, in terms of networking, just go into it with an open mind. Don't go into, like, even though, yeah, like I, have seen some sort of success, but like when someone else comes with with a different perspective, I sit and I listen. You know what I mean? And then ask myself certain questions like, oh, is this really apply to me? Was what they're saying true? Obviously, I'm not taking everybody's advice as gospel, but I'm also not immediately dismissing anybody's advice at that. I want to take in all the information and be able to discern for myself what is useful and what might be useful later in the future.
Yeah, kind of. I use it as, take the meat, leave the bones, right? We don't have to take
Hmm.
100% of what everyone says, but we could take a percentage of what people say. And that is what allows us to really craft and discern what we decide is valuable for us to apply to ourselves and our lives. And what I love what you said about the networking aspect of the client acquisition of the sale was easy. And this is for any of the entrepreneurs, any guys that are listening who work in the B2B space. When you find yourself amongst other entrepreneurs or you're in a conference, business owners tend to know what they need. And what's beautiful about networking when done right, you're not selling. You're not like, hey, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this for you. You're more or less just being. And by
Yeah.
being, you just say, this is what I do and this is what I offer. And because you know what you offer, the person who knows what they need is literally going to say, hey, I need that. This happened to myself. I mentioned how I do men's coaching. I help men get past their burnout, increase effectiveness, increase productivity and output while also reducing input. Person at the conference or where I am turns around and says, "Oh, I need that." And It wasn't a sale. I wasn't making a cold call. I was simply at a conference and speaking about what I do. And someone else said, I need that. Let's hop on a call. So it becomes automatic when you A, have clarity on your actions, what you do and what you offer. And then B, you put yourself in positions to succeed, in positions to be discovered. And while that's really important in networking to really have it in the B2B space, for anybody that might be in the B2C, business to customers, or anyone who might be working on their own personal brand, right? We have a lot of guys listening who are looking just to build their personal brand and their online profile. How have you leveraged tools like YouTube, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, or TikToks, things like that? When we talk about short term or short form video, how
Mhm.
have you leveraged short form video for your clients to increase traffic or awareness and visibility to their audience?
So for sure. So what I do is I'll take all their long form content, I'll cut it up into short form content, and then I'll post it on all the platforms, and then we do that every day. That's one thing that people need to understand and take away is that you got to be consistent, especially in the short form game. And as you know, in the podcast game, for sure, you have to be consistent. I always tell people before they sign up, like, this is not we going viral next week or in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to take time for us to get things right. And there's always things that we're innovating. Like some of my clients, that I've been working with for over a year, the content that we post that or the style that we went with, at the beginning when we started was not the same content style that we did 3 months in, 6 months in, 9 months in, 12 months in. Like we're always constantly what you call redefining and innovating because the audience is changing. That what the audience wants is changing, and you got to be adaptable. And that was and I want people to really take that away from this episode is that you really have to be adaptable because just like Darwin, like if you are not adaptable, you will die or you will get left behind. Like
Mhm.
Ted, you brought up Jeff Bezos earlier and how it took him 10 years. A lot of people probably don't even know that Amazon was like selling books. Amazon
Yep.
started selling books and now they transition. And if they were so scared and like, oh my goodness, like this is so comfortable as selling books, we're probably making millions of dollars, whatever, like let's not expand, they would never be the giant that they are today. So don't be afraid to pivot into something new, or even if you have to like start over and do something completely different, like that's just what it's going to take to get to the next level. So
Yeah. How has being adaptable helped you in not just your entrepreneurial ventures, but just through life, man?
uh I would say it's helped me with just perspective and not getting too comfortable with an idea, being okay with change. I know change can be scary for a lot of people. And there's definitely certain times where change has been scary for me, but just being able to embrace change and understand that change is going to happen whether I like it or not. The world around me is going to change whether I like it or not. And it's up to me to want to change myself.
Yeah. Speaking of that change, you're doing digital marketing, and you decide to add another change in your life, and it's start a podcast, and
Hmm.
you sit down and you come up with the idea of Beyond Ordinary. What
Hmm.
inspired you to start Beyond Ordinary, and how has that played into your approach to your digital marketing?
Mm, good question. So the how I started the idea of my podcast is I was going to try to transition my current business from a done for you to a done with you, right? And so I signed up for this coaching program, paid them, several thousands of dollars, whatever. And part of the program that they wanted me to do is they wanted me to do ads. And they want me to do content and run content to those ads, right? Or run ads to the content, right? So I was like, okay, cool. So I had to get up and I was going to pivot completely. I was going to work with accountants and whatnot. And like, I don't know why. I don't ask me why I came up with accountants. That's just that was just the direction I took. And keep in mind,
They
this is
got
also,
money.
yeah. Keep in mind, this was at the beginning of the year. So this is probably like around February, right? So going into the year, I had no intentions of doing a podcast whatsoever. This kind of like more or less kind of came out the blue, right? And so Yeah, sorry about that. A lot of noise out here in the city. So, one thing that they told me to do is I had to do content every day, and I was kind of struggling with doing that for accountants. And so, what they told me to do, they said, "Oh, well, you have clients. What if you just did, even though they aren't accountants, maybe the social proof will help. Da da da. Do a podcast interview with them, right?" So I started to. So the very first episode of my podcast was with my client, and at the time I was doing it with the intention of it being kind of like a side project I wasn't really taking seriously, so I could like help promote my consulting business for accountants I was building, right? And so one day I was doing that, and I remember doing, even just doing the accounting content. I would wake up every single day and I would just dread getting out of bed because I really just didn't want to do it, right? I just hated it, right? I hated what I was doing
Hmm.
or what I was attempting to build and whatnot. And I was watching Alex Hormozy one day, and he was talking about, oh well, if the best thing, if best case scenario like happens, then what, right? It was something along those lines. And so I was like, all right, cool, all right. So I started thinking about my like what I was doing, the accounting stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'll be making money, but I'll be talking to accountants, and I don't even know if I really like this. I already don't even like it now, and it's only gonna get worse as I make more money, blah blah blah. So I was like, okay, so I really don't want to do this. And then I was like, okay, what do I want to do? And then I was like, oh, okay, well, that podcast episode with Josh was kind of fun. Okay. I was like, what if instead of like, what if I just make the podcast like the main thing as opposed to like doing all this extra stuff with the accounting. So from that point forward, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just do the podcast. And so I basically dropped out the program, didn't get a refund or anything. So I wasted thousands of dollars essentially for no reason, and then just started the podcast. But the main takeaway from that is that, and the main takeaway I want people to take away from this is to do something that you actually like. So, like, because you're not gonna be able to sustain yourself in the long run to do something, especially like in entrepreneurship, if you don't actually like enjoy doing it. Like, money cannot be your only motivator for doing something, and that was the only motivator for me at the time of doing all that accounting stuff. But like the podcast don't even feel like work. I just get on, I talk to people, I enjoy it. Um, I get to talk to like all sorts of people, be able to pick people's brains, be able to network is honestly, it's great. And I've only been doing it
Yeah.
since I think May, the end of May. So like it's been about exactly 6 months ish. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I do have a follow up question when it comes to podcasting, but I did want to touch on what you mentioned about hiring a coach.
Hmm.
And this is important because you mentioned you graduated from school, Miles. You're
Hmm.
a graduate. You're done with school. Um, you should have this life thing figured out. Why hire a coach, bro?
Man, like I'm always seeking out, consulting coaches, all that, because you're never always gonna have it figured out. Like what I consider, a self improvement journey is one of those infinite games that you have to keep playing. Like there's no point in which you're like, okay, I reached a certain level, and so now I'm cool. You know what I mean? It's not like that. So even with doing this podcast stuff, I'm over here looking into different podcasts, consulting, companies or services and stuff like that to help me with my podcast, because I have an idea of like where I want to take it, how I think I'm gonna grow and stuff like that. But obviously, I don't know what I don't know, and I'm 6 months in, so I'd rather hire somebody that's been
Mhm.
doing it for like 10 years to help me get to where I want to be. And me personally, I'm always going to spend money if it's going to buy me back my time or cut down the amount of time that's going to take me to get to where I want to be. Because I can always get back more money. Or I can always get more money. I can never get back time. So
100%. That part. That's gonna be a clip. We go. That's the short form content right there.
for sure.
But that's the reality because a lot of guys coming up, especially Miles, you're ahead of the game because when I was in my 20s, I saw the abundance of time that I had and I used it to acquire skills when I could have used the money that I was making, which might have seemed limited at the time, but that would have been able to increase my earning potential. And every time I've spent money on coaching, I've made more money on the back end. And that's what's amazing to hear because it is
Absolutely.
it is hard for some people to grasp that of you will be paying for an advancement in a certain area of life that you just might not be an expert in. Well, not even an expert. You just might not be well versed in, and that's okay because there's other areas of life that I might not be well versed in that I am going to need help, whether it be a specific area of life that someone has mastered. And that is why coaching is so helpful. Back to the podcast aspect, what you were mentioning about being 6 months into it. And I've told people before, if you're trying to make a whole bunch of money, don't start a podcast right away
Oh, for
because
sure.
it's one of
Yeah.
those that you got to kind of work your way up. So, what was the overall motivation behind the podcast? Because you mentioned, hey, if your only motivation is money, at some point in time, I agree. You can't white knuckle it forever. You can make it
Yeah.
for a while. And I'm the kind of person I say, listen, if I don't like something, it's going to pay a lot of money. I could probably do it for a year, 2 to 3. I could do anything for 4 years max, like a degree. But outside of that, if you don't love it, are you going to be able to put up with it for the long term? And the answer is usually no. So when
Yeah.
it comes to podcasting and knowing that the rewards of podcasting don't come right away, this is
Mhm.
a slow trickle and a slow growth. What's the motivation behind hitting that record button?
Uh, I would say my motivation is just like how we're talking about learning from coaches. You could pretty much learn anything from a guest, right? So I see my podcast as I'm basically learning from other people, right? I'm learning whether it's about business, whether it's about the arts, photography, real estate, whatever. I've had everybody come on the show, you know. But in terms of like pretty much what's keeping me going, it's one of those things where I could see the path. It's like I know if I stay consistent at this, then I'll be good. I'm doing all the right things by being consistent, doing the short form clip, trying to get coaching. Like I'm putting a lot of money into my podcast and actually taking it serious. So I don't see that there's no way that this operates at a deficit for years on end. So there's kind of there is that motivation, and also just being excited for the trends, the trend of podcasting. I was just listening to Think Media podcast. It was probably like that day or two after the election, talking about how he was really giving the breakdown of just the importance of podcasting and how it played in the election, and how he thinks that how like legacy media is on the downturn, podcasting is on the up and up, and how eventually like the top podcasters are going to be the ones that are kind of going to be facilitating these debates and stuff like that. And my motivation is kind of to really get to that level. To I'm not really a political person for real, but just knowing that I would be able to be in that position to like do that, to
Yeah.
meet some of the leaders in this country and whatnot, and talk to them and pick their brain and stuff like that. I literally have like a sheet, like a long list of like just dream guests that I hope to get on the show one day. But
Yeah.
obviously I gotta work towards that.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com. Yeah, I mean, similar to the Dream 100 list with Russell Brunson is expert secrets, right? You establish your customer avatar, find out exactly where they are, who do they watch, who do they pay attention to, who are the dream guests that you have, and then you work your way up to that, become the life of the party in their comments and in all their spaces online. But then you would start to carve out expertise, you carve out a bit of a niche, and then you get familiarity amongst your people, and then before you know it, you're the life of the party, and then you get the attention of the person hosting the party, which will then in fact get that guest onto your show. So playing the long game is the way to do it, and of course
Absolutely.
knowing who you're talking to along the way and enjoying it. And we mentioned trends. and paying attention to where the world's going. Where do you, Miles, where do you see podcasts and digital marketing going in the future?
Oh man, where do I see it in the future? Um, I definitely think that multimedia, just in general, not just podcasts, but like, YouTube, stuff like that, is going to take over traditional media eventually. Like, I've pretty much completely stopped watching like TV like altogether. The only time I'll like watch TV is for like a game. Like, so it's like, NBA playing World Cup, whatever. So I think that trend of more view people utilizing YouTube is going to continue. I think AI is definitely going to play a big role in the space, and it's only going to get better too. So
Yeah.
so there's that, and I think that and I also hope that podcasts really do become revolutionary and do take over legacy media eventually. And that's
Yeah.
why I'm trying to establish myself now. They say that 90% of podcasters don't make it past episode 3, and 90% of them don't make it past episode 20 or 21, something like that. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the going back to, I think, a previous question that you had, which was about the like what kind of gives me the drive, like, is just knowing that I'm just going to keep going and I'm just not going to quit. Sometimes you don't even got to be better than everybody else. You just got to outlast the competition. You know, I've seen people around the same time that at Howard that started podcasts, and they got to like episode 5, and then I get it, life happens and whatnot, and then kind of they stopped doing it,
Fall
and
off.
they fell off. And and the thing about falling off is that it sucks, is that you don't, when you get back on, you don't, like, these platforms don't put you right where you went. They make you basically work to get back to where you were. So
You got
like
to earn it.
that exactly, you got to earn it. So they kind of keep you on a hamster wheel. That's why, at least for me, like, I'm actually about to go back to the West Coast, spend some time with my family for the holidays. So I'm recording a whole bunch of content, so that way I don't have to record anything. Like, I could just take
Yeah.
a month break and just have my whole backlog just like kind of sustain me.
You speaking to me, bro, because I'm all about systems and processes. When my daughter was born, I took 6 weeks off from the podcast, didn't touch anything. And really, up until last month, that was my highest downloaded month of the year.
Damn.
Um,
See?
with me not even being there. And that's what systems and processes do. That's what I do with my time management coaching. That's what I do with the automations, and even hiring the right team to do things and operate and schedule things on the back end, so your business and your podcast can continue to operate. So it's a beautiful and amazing thing when not only was I doing the dad thing with the newborn, but podcast came out every week. The socials came out every day, and my YouTube was still chugging and rocking and along. And I was able to just go on to Instagram and then comment and respond to things that we're posting. But at the same time, the ability to be present with my daughter and my wife and be a support group and a support system was uh, unmatched and priceless compared to what it would have been if I had to stick to this podcast while managing my full-time job. So
Mhm.
that's huge in terms of having that consistency down, having your systems and processes down. And you mentioned about always learning and always being able to get tips, not just from mentors and coaches, but from guests on the podcast as well. I'm going to tell myself I do the same thing. And I'm talking to a digital marketer with short form content. We have a lot of listeners who are in the entrepreneurial space. So, Miles, why not use some of your expertise? What advice would you give to some of those who are listening who might have a podcast of their own? Perhaps they have a business of their own, brick and mortar or B2B, and they're looking to tap into the digital space or increase their game when it comes to digital marketing. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur who's looking at that challenge right now?
I would say content is king. Like, even if you think that, like, oh, I just have like I don't know, a sandwich shop, a mom and pop sandwich shop, like, content is literally king. For, like, literally, just using that example, like, look at Keith Lee. Like, Keith Lee is quite like, for all intents and purposes, just a regular family man. Was recording himself eating food, became popular became so popular to the point where like he had the ability to really like give a review and that would either 10x your business or take it to zero. Like that's how powerful content like specifically short form content is, because he was on TikTok and stuff like that. So I would say like just like if you're a business owner, like to always to if you don't have a digital presence, if you don't have an online presence, literally just start.
Yeah.
And just start and just gradually do something. Maybe like it's just posting once a week, you know, and then once you get the hang of it, maybe you'll do twice a week, and then you could ramp up to doing every day. Because at the end of the day, like especially if you're doing like paid advertisement, like when I was doing the Facebook ads, you don't want to be at the mercy of, oh well, this ad is restricted and now all your lead flow is gone. You know what I mean? And I would also recommend to everybody, and this is advice I'm giving that I haven't even taken myself, but I will eventually, is to start an email list. So that way, if you have an email list and you build this digital platform, and then for whatever reason something goes wrong, you at least have an email list of everybody, and you could be like, hey everybody, I'm over here on this new platform, or hey everybody, we're just gonna I'm going through some things right now. I'm just going to only communicate through email. So that way you always have access to your audience and always have ownership to your audience. So that's why I would say to anybody who's watching this, who, whether you're a podcaster, whatever business you have, just always use content, or to always
Yeah.
to start an online presence. And you don't have to, and I know I said you have to be everywhere. But if I was not as, you know, digital market savvy, I'd probably start with Instagram for sure. 100%. Instagram, you're able to DM people. It's easy to find, very shareable. 100%. I think that every business should at least have an Instagram.
Yeah, my top three right now that I'm focusing on would be Instagram, X, and YouTube. Those three have had the most potent audience
Mhm.
for me in my experience of real world discussions after an engagement with content, right? Instagram, real people, real engagements. YouTube, real
Exactly.
people, real engagements. And same thing with X, real people, real engagements. TikTok, not so much. You get a lot of engagement, you get a lot of people, but like not really getting qualified leads or qualified conversations from TikTok. Even though
Yeah.
TikTok is my largest following, it's my least conversions. So really interesting how those different platforms interact with each other, and how you get different outputs from it. Um, Coming towards the end of the podcast, bro, I want to make sure we we touch on what's the biggest mistake people should avoid making when it comes to their content, when it comes to getting to the digital space, or even in the entrepreneurial game when they're starting out. What's the biggest mistake, something maybe you've been able to come back from, something that has been a hard lesson that you've learned that you maybe could prevent somebody else from having to learn as well?
Uh okay. First one would be to pick.
He said first one. Uh-oh.
Nah, you said biggest mistake. I'm like, oh, okay, because I made plenty. I would say first is pick. We started off the podcast by talking about growing markets, right? So we're in the podcasting game. That's on the up and up. Content, up and up, right? But so if you are not in a growing market, then there's really nothing that you could do to grow, right? So like if you're selling magazines or you're selling newspapers, like you're probably not going to make $1 million. You're probably honestly going to go broke within the next 5 years. Why? Because everything went digital. That's not how people consume their media. So understand uh, where the market is going, and being able to adapt to that, and being able to and if you are in one of those markets, to just go ahead and jump ship and find something else. It's going to be scary, I know, but just do that. Um, I would also say definitely 100% try to pay for some sort of coaching. I know there's a lot of fake gurus out there, but at the end of the day, like even if you get burnt by one guru, shoot, at least you know what to look for in terms of the next one. And sometimes, like it's not even about like them. Maybe it's or they weren't a fake guru. Maybe their teaching style just didn't mesh with your learning style, and so you got to find somebody else. One of my clients, we were on the podcast. We did a podcast episode last week, and she said she spent 100K on coaching, and she went through like 3 coaches.
Yeah.
So she just had to keep it going, and she eventually made all that money back. So don't be afraid to invest in some sort of coaching or coach or mastermind, something like that. And also, and probably the third and final thing is to choose something that you're passionate about and be willing to play the long game. So in 2020 and 2021, I was doing a whole bunch of like trying to buy all these cryptos because it was a bull run and all blah 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 and all this other stuff. And I got on Kraken and Bybit and was trying to leverage trade and all this other stuff and ended up losing so much money. I'm talking like tens of thousands of dollars just going out the drain, right? And so from there, I decided, I was like, you know what? Let me actually take a step back, try to not make money. Like, let me just like actually go through the learning process and then find something that worked for me. And what I found is that I'm not that great of a day trader. But if I look at the monthly time frame, 2 month time frame, and I expand my time horizon of, okay, I'm buying this, now in 2022, and I plan on holding it and keeping it and selling it in 2024, 2025, and I know it's going to be worth significantly more money, then it was a lot easier for me. So I was just able to expand my time horizon, be consistent, and then I eventually made all that money back. So just being willing to play the long game. Anything that comes, quick and easy, the quick and easy it came just is as fast as it could go. So play the long game and develop skills too.
Yeah.
Like to develop some sort of skill set. Like that was something that I wasn't doing when I was doing the cryptos. I was just doing a bunch of just bullshit. Like I wasn't actually learning a skill. And so during those years, like in 2021, 2022, I was like, okay, let me like actually learn. Uh,
Yeah.
so so there's that. I know I said a lot, but that's because I lost a whole lot of money doing a whole bunch of stupid stuff. So
Valuable, man. Valuable. Like I've lost the money doing those stupid lessons as well. But the biggest thing you mentioned was keep trying and reiterating, and then pay for coaching if you can. Because like you, when I slowed down, expanded my time horizon, and actually looked at, okay, hey, let me take these steps now that aren't going to pay me right away, but will put me in a position to strike when the iron's hot. And like you mentioned, when you
absolutely.
stopped trying to make money, I was trying to make money. And ironically, that's how I lost money. But when I started trying to acquire skills and then build something of value, the script changed. Right. And I
Right.
podcasted for many years before I ever made a penny podcasting. And then recently, the script changed. And because what is my focus? My focus is on creating value, and then the money's going to be a symptom of my actions.
Hmm.
And that is really kind of the trajectory that has helped me push forward. How do you manage the demands of hosting the podcast while running your digital agency?
Man, it is a lot. I will say it's a lot, but we talked about systems earlier. That has been a major key. So I don't do any of the podcast editing. I don't do any of the editing for any of my clients. I have a team that does that, and I've just set up um, systems and other people who aren't even necessarily editing, but helping the editors, helping with the scheduling, with the posting, and stuff like that, to the point where all I have to do is just hand my VA a to-do list. I said, okay, these are the podcasts I'm recording. Here's my login to my Riverside. I'll shoot you a text when I'm done. And then she already knows what to do, sets up the editor, knows how to do the thumbnail, boom, boom, boom. So I'm literally just reviewing stuff, you know?
Wow.
And so that's, yeah, so that's how I got to that point. I will say that if I did not have a team, if I didn't have a team that was helping me edit and do all this stuff, I don't think it would be possible. It would be too much
Yeah.
to try to do the editing host. Like it's too much. So
It
yeah,
takes a
shout out my
team.
team. Oh yeah, it
Yeah,
takes a
for real.
team. It takes a team.
Oh yeah, and that's the whole message that I tell people when it comes to buying back their time, when it comes back to doing everything. Because as men, we have the ego, right? We have this ego that says, "I need to handle everything. I need to do everything. I'm going to change my own oil. I'm waxing, cleaning my own car. I'm cutting my own grass. I'm shining my own shoes. Those are all great. I'm ironing my own shirt." Man, I have not ironed my own shirt. I wear a dress shirt every day for my morning job. I say that in air quotes because I'm a morning meteorologist, but I wear a suit every day. I don't iron my own shirt. I get my clothes laundered and dry cleaned because not because I'm bougie, not because I got it like that. No, because I value my time. And what I do
Yeah.
with my time, I enjoy and I work hard and I make the money while I'm working so I can have the leisure and spend that time with my wife, my daughter, my kids at the gym so I can still stick to my goals and move the needle forward while still attending to the things that need to be attending. Um, Coming up towards the end, Miles, this has been an amazing journey. Couple
Hey,
last questions is one is what are the future plans for not just Beyond Ordinary, but SFG Media?
future plans. Um, I'm currently trying to dial in my client acquisition system for my business. So that's what I've been doing recently in terms of this. Personally, I've been looking to finally make my crypto exit. Like I was alluding to at the beginning, I was consistent. I was buying every single week from 2022 until honestly like today, still to this day.
Let's
So, and
go.
I plan on taking those profits and then reinvesting those into the podcast and being able to go to more conferences and more coaching. Those are probably the two things that I plan on buying, and probably new equipment. I mean, equipment's not necessarily a bottleneck for me, but like, it would be nice. I mean, if I have the money, or well, I will have the money, and it's like, well, I might as well just upgrade the equipment. So those are probably the two biggest things that I have looking down in the pipeline.
I love it, man. Always improving and always getting better, and that's really the name of the game because it's not about how we start the race, it's how we finish the race. And I'm gonna
Absolutely.
keep on going. So I'll see you at the finish line, bro. What are the best links for people to connect with you, follow you, reach out if they could use some of your services and your help? Where should they go?
For sure. If anybody wants to reach out about short form and talk digital marketing, best place to reach me at is my email, which is m.youngblood@sfgmedia.org. I'm also pretty active on my Instagram, which is Miles with a Y, Myles Youngblood TV. That's my username for Instagram, and then my podcast is Beyond Ordinary, or you could type at Miles A Youngblood on YouTube. Those are three places you could find me.
I got that. I'll have your podcast, email, and YouTube in the links in the show notes below
For sure, for
for
sure, for
folks to
sure.
just hit that up as of right now. Last question, man. Usually the heaviest one is what is something you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
Something that I've seen that has shaped the way I see the world as a man. I'll put it this way, that I think we talked about this off camera about how it's almost mandatory to have a business. And I agree with that, like about 80-90% of it. Everybody is not cut out for entrepreneurship. So I'm not necessarily saying that, everybody listening to this, you have to start a business. I mean, it's hard work. So everybody's not cut out for it. But I would just say that as I've been just growing older and just realizing that the more like just money and status that you have, like you just play by different rules. You just play by different rules. Like just seeing different people, like I know he's controversial and I'm in no way, shape, or form like endorsing him. But like just even looking at what Donald Trump has been able to achieve in his life, being
Yeah.
president, being president with no political experience, being, billionaire, surviving assassination attempts, coming back, winning presidency, then losing, then coming back on his revenge tour to, to win. Like he's just seeing just what can be done. Like if you were to tell somebody that and explain to them that like, oh yeah, this person, like you didn't use his name and you just said that, oh, this billionaire was going to do X, Y, and Z and he had no political experience going into doing all those things, you'd probably think that they're crazy. You know what I mean? But that's just what happens when you have a mission and you have a goal and you are just resilient. And when you're resilient and you strive for those goals and you don't give up and you achieve a certain level of success, money, status, whatever, you just play by different rules. And I've just been able to just observe it from just different leaders, that obviously he's at the very top, but like it's just levels to the game.
100%. And like you mentioned, we were talking about that entrepreneurial mindset, being entrepreneurs and getting in the hustle. And I agree, you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but learn the game and learn how this game works, learn the systems, because we're all playing this game. It's life. And the game has rules. There's a rule book to it. And like my dad and I like to say, when you understand the rules, then you can break the rules. And when I say break
I
the
like
rules,
that.
obviously I'm not encouraging anybody to break the law, stay within in legal parameters. Do not clip this podcast and say, Ted told me to do it. Nope. I am not co-signing any of that behavior. But when you understand the rules, then you can go 65 and a 60, right? Then you can maybe hug the outer lane a little bit as you're taking a turn. It's all about pushing the boundaries a little bit, because beyond your comfort zone is where you find that growth. And it's also where you find the elevation. And when you understand the rules of the game, you can play appropriately and then find out how you could win in your favor, even if it doesn't mean becoming your own boss and entrepreneur, but you could be an entrepreneur and work your way up the ladders within the system and within the company that you're in. So this has been fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you we were going to be in for a treat. Podcaster, digital marketing entrepreneur, host of the Beyond Ordinary podcast, Myles Youngblood. Thank you for being on the show, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, absolute pleasure. I'm actually going to recap some of the gems you left along the way. I was taking notes because I know a lot of our listeners are working out, driving, cleaning, or doing something while listening. First and foremost, we appreciate the love and support. Thank you for rocking us all through these last 51 minutes. Watch the trends. Don't get cut ball watching. So many of us are living through life on autopilot, and we're not paying attention to where the world is going. If you're a man looking to take control of your life, you have to identify where the trends are going and position yourself to be in the right position to take advantage. It could be as simple as starting that business on an up and up, or as simple as Myles mentioned, expanding your time horizon, looking at companies that you could invest in. Maybe it's $20 a week, maybe it's $50 a week, or $100 a week. Whatever it is, investing in that company that you see is going to be growing over the course of the next few years. That's another trend that you can pay close attention to. Short form content equals shareable. You've been shared that hour-long video before. Did you watch it? Exactly. That minute-long video you probably did watch because you actually have the bandwidth in order to do it. So short form video is shareable. If you're looking to get your word out and you're only doing long form, you're missing out on an opportunity to be in front of more eyeballs. Try everything. If you see something that's not working and you said, I tried it all, you haven't tried enough. Keep trying new things because you don't see the list of failures behind the successful business person. And then don't take the advice as gospel from everybody, but eat the meat and leave the bones. You have to be consistent in your approach when it comes to business and digital marketing, and also be adaptable to what's happening around you. Because as we said, you watch the trends, you also want to watch the environment in which you're in. Also identify with where your shortcomings are, pay for coaching where needed. And of course, you don't want to do it all. Hire a team, have systems, have processes to help you leverage your skill set, your mind, in order to accomplish more with more hands. And if you need help, you have plenty of people who are willing to help. If you need help in the digital marketing space, be sure to reach out to Myles Youngblood or check out the Beyond Ordinary podcast to hear more from Myles. And if you enjoyed this episode, you already know I'm going to ask you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, share this with somebody else that you know can get value from it as well. That's the best compliment you can give us, is by sharing this, and also
Absolutely.
leave us a rating. Exactly. Myles knows the game.
I already know, man.
Yeah. Got to get the reviews, got to get the love. And speaking of the reviews, leave us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. Give us an honest rating. Would love to see your feedback. And that's the only way that we could improve, because we are here for you guys on the mission of connecting men in pursuit of their potential. That's it for today's episode, guys. Thank you for making it to the end. As we always say, everybody wants the sunshine. They don't want the rain, but you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow.